In the global financial markets, trillions of dollars are currently chasing a single narrative: artificial intelligence. Capital is flooding into Nvidia, advanced foundries, and the construction of massive data centers. But beneath this unprecedented boom lies a severe structural paradox. We are building the most advanced computational brains in human history, but we are plugging them into an infrastructure that is fundamentally broken. Welcome back to the Kairos. Today, we are investigating the hidden bottleneck of the AI revolution. The physical limits of the electrical grid, the geopolitical war over uranium, and why the world's most powerful tech monopolies are quietly pivoting to nuclear energy. To understand the scale of this crisis, look at the raw data. A standard Google search requires roughly 0.3 watt-hours of electricity. A single ChatGPT query requires nearly 10 times that amount. Tech giants are no longer building standard 50-megawatt data centers. They are designing gigawatt-scale AI mega-campuses. The prevailing public narrative assumes that renewable energy will power this transition. But this ignores a critical infrastructural reality. In her investigative work, The Grid, Gretchen Bakker exposes the US electrical grid as an aging, fragile 20th century machine. But the crisis goes beyond physical aging. It is a crisis of bureaucracy and capacity. In the United States today, if you build a massive data center, you cannot just plug it in. You must enter the interconnection queue, a waiting list to connect to the national grid. Due to the massive influx of intermittent renewable energy projects and outdated transmission lines, this waiting period has stretched to an astonishing 5 to 7 years. AI companies fighting a winner-take-all war cannot wait 7 years just to turn their computers on. Faced with this mathematical and bureaucratic impossibility, the smart money is moving aggressively. The tech monopolies, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, have realized they must bypass the public grid entirely. We are witnessing the de facto privatization of nuclear infrastructure, specifically through a strategy known as behind-the-meter agreements. Let's break down what this means. Earlier this year, Amazon acquired the Cumulus data center campus directly adjacent to Talen Energy's Susquehanna nuclear plant. By locating the data center on the same physical site as the reactor, Amazon draws power directly from the nuclear plant before the electricity ever hits the national transmission grid. This behind-the-meter setup allows Amazon to completely bypass grid connection delays and massive transmission fees. The most glaring evidence of this shift came when Microsoft signed a historic 20-year power purchase agreement with Constellation Energy to revive the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. A reactor with a historically controversial past, decommissioned for economic reasons, is being brought back from the dead exclusively to feed Microsoft's AI operations. Microsoft is willing to pay a massive premium to secure 100% of the plant's output. This is not just an energy procurement strategy, it is absolute vertical integration. In the AI era, big tech has realized that computing power is fundamentally synonymous with electrical power. If you do not control the electrons, you do not control the AI. Reviving decommissioned nuclear plants is a finite solution. There are only a handful of viable dormant reactors left. The industry's long-term architectural pivot is towards small modular reactors, or SMRs. Traditional nuclear plants are notorious for crippling capital expenditures, often taking 15 years and $20 billion to construct. SMRs represent a paradigm shift from construction to manufacturing. Companies like TerraPower, backed heavily by Bill Gates, are designing next-generation reactors that can be mass-produced in factories and assembled on-site. But SMRs are not just smaller, they are technologically superior. Traditional reactors use pressurized water for cooling, requiring massive, complex safety infrastructure. Next-generation SMRs, like TerraPower's Natrium reactor, use liquid sodium or molten salts. They operate at lower pressures and can automatically cool down in an emergency without external power. From an infrastructural standpoint, SMRs are the ultimate antidote to the grid problem. Because of their smaller physical footprint and advanced safety profiles, SMRs can be co-located directly with AI data centers anywhere in the country. While SMRs face severe regulatory hurdles and will not see wide commercial deployment until the 2030s, the billions in capital expenditure flowing from Silicon Valley indicate that this technology is viewed as an absolute necessity for American technological supremacy. However, the reactors, whether traditional or SMRs, are merely the hardware. The true bottleneck and the core of this geopolitical crisis lies in the fuel supply chain. The global uranium market operates in a severe structural deficit, but digging uranium out of the ground in Kazakhstan or Canada is only step one. The crisis deepens when we look at the industrial process known as enrichment, measured in separative work units, or SWU. To power advanced reactors, you need to enrich the uranium to higher concentrations. Here lies the strategic failure of the West. Over the last 30 years, the United States entirely outsourced its enrichment cycle. Today, even post-Ukraine war, Russia's state nuclear corporation, Rosatom, controls roughly 44% to 50% of the global uranium enrichment capacity. In an era of geopolitical fracturing, this is an unacceptable national security risk. Realizing this vulnerability, the US government enacted the Prohibiting Russian Uranium Imports Act in 2024. The West can no longer fuel its AI supremacy using Russian enrichment infrastructure. Consequently, the US and its allies are being forced to rapidly reconstruct a localized, independent supply chain. The US Department of Energy is pouring billions into companies like Centrus Energy to rebuild domestic enrichment capabilities. This forced localization is creating a massive, prolonged supercycle for Western uranium and nuclear infrastructure assets. The financial markets are already exploiting this vulnerability. Institutional investors are not just buying mining stocks, they are cornering the physical commodity. Financial entities like the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust have been aggressively buying physical uranium off the spot market and locking it away in vaults. This forces utility companies, who desperately need uranium to keep their reactors running, to scramble for fuel in a tightening market, driving prices structurally higher. Ultimately, the global economy is caught in a profound infrastructural trilemma. We are mandated to achieve net zero carbon emissions. We are forced to establish sovereign energy security and break free from Russian supply chains. And we must power the exponential, insatiable demands of artificial intelligence without collapsing the existing electrical grid. Nuclear energy is the only mathematically and physically viable baseload solution that satisfies all three conditions. The nuclear renaissance is no longer a theoretical debate. It is an industrial reality funded by the deepest pockets on Wall Street and Silicon Valley. The capital has already moved. To survive this macroeconomic shift, investors must look beyond the silicon chips and focus on the power that runs them. Subscribe to the Kairos for continued deep dive macro analysis. Until next time, invest smart and stay prepared.